Hi everyone, it's Siobhan here, the Galloping Housewife. On the way out to the yard again today. Yeah, it looks nice and bright and shiny behind me, and it is currently. It's also absolutely fucking freezing, and it's been snowing on and off this morning, so yeah, it's that sort of weather up here today. But it is February and it is Scotland and we expect this, so we just take advantage of when it is sunny. And so I am actually, so I'm heading out for my jog and on the way to the yard, and yeah, once again we'll see what happens when we get there. One thing I am going to do is clip Mitch, that's the first thing, and then yeah, I'll just see whatever I have time for after that, and what the weather's like and what sort of mood I'm in, really. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. Yeah, and I kind of been sitting in the car thinking, what do I want to chat about today? There's a bunch of stuff that's sort of in the forefront of my mind at the moment. I am here in the UK. We've got a lot going on politically, which is quite infuriating. I mean, I'm always infuriated, but particularly infuriating. We've got British version of Donald Trump in power, and and I especially am quite aware of of poverty and of the hardships that a lot of people suffer through no fault of their own. And yeah, we've just had, as has the world, the fuel price rises have gone up a lot of places, and food price rises, just the cost of living in itself has increased ridiculously over the last little while. And there's a lot of more people out of work. There's a lot of people living below the poverty line. But some places have handled it quite well. France, for instance, and others less well. And the fact that our government has declared a policy that they're going to force all of us to take on debt, which is, I'm so against debt. I just, unsecured debt especially. It's, I just don't think it makes everything more expensive, and that's why people say it is expensive to be poor, and it's expensive to be poor because you can afford, if you've not got much, you can afford lower quality products, and then they don't last as long, and then you have to buy more of them, and then even though you've got a cheaper product to start with, by the time you spend over and over and over again, it's no cheaper. And I talk about a false economy, and so many of our decisions that we make, whether we have cheaper accommodation, but it doesn't actually serve the purpose, and so you end up, maybe you're working from home, but you've got a business that you want to run, but you can't work efficiently from around the kitchen table. You're forced to, and you don't work as well, and you don't things don't come about quite so much, or then you have to put a outside office on your property, or rent a separate space so that you can get your work done. That's just one example. Another example is buying a cheaper horse, and I see this a lot. I see a lot of people go out there and they will, say, well, I've only got 10 grand to spend on a horse, and the 10 grand horse is you're only going to have a couple of seasons out of, or it's maybe not quite as sound, or it's not schooled to the level that you need it at, and as opposed to spending maybe 15, 16, 17 grand on a horse, and then you are and then and it's got all those things, and instead of spending that initial outlay, well, for a start, buying a horse is the cheap part of the equation. You can spend it costs exactly the same. Why don't you pull up there, mate? Oh, okay. It costs exactly the same to keep a 10 grand horse as it does a 15 grand or a 16 grand or a 17 grand horse, and actually you're not looking for at any change out of bare minimum sort of 12 or 15,000. I'm talking in pounds here because this is what I know, and this is what I've been living for the past 8 years, and talking about costs in a relatively cheap area, but you're not going to get any change out of 12 or 15,000 pounds for a year's upkeep anywhere, and that will and it's like, so how many years does it take to pay off the difference? The second thing is, if you need extra lessons or you need extra schooling, you need to send the horse away for a month because it doesn't do what you need it to do, or or you need to spend extra on the farrier or the vet or your insurance. There's all these things that come into play, and I'm a big advocate for actually making a decision wisely, not spending frivolously, which is hard to say with my retainers in, but actually having, but making a judgment call, but buying, and whatever you are doing in life, the closest to what you want and need as is physically possible, and and making your savings in other areas, because those sorts of equations, those sorts of sort of long-term things are far more important. If you buy the one horse and you can keep it at home and it doesn't cost you anything extra, and you don't need to send it away for schooling, plus you get all that enjoyment out of it that investment is worth for you, then that's a much cheaper option in the long run. I mean, I see it with things like supplements. People, my other business is in sort of health products and things, and people will say, this is slightly more expensive than the other, well, it is more expensive than the other one that I've been using, but the other one doesn't work. So if you're going to spend, if you spend 20 quid every month chucking it down the gullet of your horse and it does nothing, but you can spend 40 quid every month on a product that you feed your horse and you have a rideable difference, it's like, you're burning 120 pounds and getting nowhere, as opposed to spending 240 pounds and having a horse that you can ride. I mean, it's just like those equations don't make sense. So just have we think about that, and just also when you are watching the media at the moment, and I know it's global, I know there are a lot of people that are having problems, especially after the pandemic and things. Well, the pandemic is still going, but people have lost jobs or have had reduced incomes. Everyone has had a massive increase in the cost of living. Then just be a little bit aware of those choices that are being made by people, and also in the offerings that are being made to them. I mean, it's not okay. yeah, it's not okay. And if you want to, especially on the sort of like budgeting and financial health thing, I am in the process of writing a self-directed course for that, which is going to be epic. So keep an eye out for that as well, and I'll be posting some tips and tricks on both Facebook page and getting back into putting the regular blogs up on top of these things, which are just easy for me to do. Right, hope you're having a good day wherever you are. Hope things aren't stressing you out too much, and I will catch you next time I'm in the car. Alright, bye now, have a great day.